The morning sun cast long shadows across the Qadesh Valley when the first bullet shattered the windshield of Medical Transport Unit 7. Emily Rodriguez threw herself sideways as glass fragments exploded through the cabin, her medical bag spilling instruments across the floor of the armored vehicle. The distinctive crack of a high-powered rifle echoed off the canyon walls, followed immediately by the metallic ping of another round striking the vehicle's reinforced side panel. Emily's driver, Corporal Jackson, yanked the wheel hard left, sending their medical convoy careening toward the rocky outcropping that marked the entrance to Forward Operating Base Iron Shield. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Through the spider-webbed windshield, Emily could see the other two vehicles in their convoy taking evasive action, their drivers following the same emergency protocols they'd drilled countless times but never expected to use during a routine medical supply run to Hamra Village. The radio crackled with urgent voices as the convoy commander tried to establish contact with base security. Emily grabbed her headset, her training taking over despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. She'd been making this run twice weekly for the past 4 months, transporting medical supplies and providing trauma care to the remote settlements scattered throughout northern Kaldestan. The route had been considered secure, protected by regular patrols and monitored by drone surveillance. Apparently, someone had decided to change the rules of engagement. Another shot rang out, this one striking the road just ahead of their vehicle and sending up a spray of asphalt and stone. Emily's mind automatically began calculating trajectory and distance based on the sound delay and impact pattern. 800 meters, elevated position, probably somewhere in the ancient fortress ruins that overlooked the valley approach. The shooter was good, very good, placing precision shots that demonstrated both skill and restraint. He wasn't trying to kill them immediately, she realized. He was hurting them, controlling their movement, setting them up for something bigger. The convoy reached the relative safety of the base perimeter, passing through the reinforced gates as security teams scrambled to respond to the sniper threat. Emily climbed out of the damaged vehicle, her uniform dusty but intact, her medical bag somehow still clutched in her steady hands. Around her, soldiers took defensive positions while officers barked orders into radios, coordinating the response to what would later be classified as the first direct attack on medical personnel. In the Kaldestan peacekeeping mission, Dr. Michael Bennett approached Emily with the expression of barely controlled frustration that had become his trademark during their deployment. As Chief Medical Officer for Coalition Medical Unit 7, Bennett had built his reputation on maintaining strict protocols and avoiding anything that might complicate their humanitarian mission. The sniper attack represented exactly the kind of security incident that could jeopardize their carefully negotiated access to the civilian population. Rodriguez, he called out, his voice carrying the particular tone he reserved for subordinates who had somehow managed to complicate his day. I need a full report on any casualties or equipment damage from this incident. And I want to understand how a routine supply run turned into a firefight. Emily set down her medical bag and began conducting a systematic inventory of their supplies, checking for damage from the attack. Her movements were precise and methodical, the result of training that went far deeper than most people at the base realized. To her colleagues, Emily Rodriguez was simply the quiet medic who volunteered for the difficult assignments and never complained about the long hours or dangerous conditions. They saw someone who kept to herself during off-duty time, who ate meals alone while reading medical journals, and who had somehow managed to earn a reputation for exceptional competence without ever seeking attention or recognition. What they didn't see was the woman who had graduated at the top of her class from the Navy's Hospital Corpsman program after completing a bachelor's degree in emergency medicine from the University of California, San Diego, they didn't know about. her additional training in combat trauma surgery, or her fluency in Arabic, Kurdish, and Spanish. Most importantly, they had no idea that before deciding to become a medic, Emily Rodriguez had spent 2 years as a Marine Scout sniper, completing some of the most challenging training the military had to offer before making the difficult decision to transfer to medical service. "All medical supplies are secure," Emily reported, completing her inventory. "No casualties among medical personnel. The vehicle sustained minor damage but remains operational. Request permission to conduct follow-up medical checks on the convoy. Drivers for possible stress reactions or minor injuries." Dr. Bennett nodded curtly, already moving on to coordinate with base security about the implications of the attack. As he walked away, Emily noticed Captain James Wilson, the base commander, approaching with an expression that suggested the sniper incident was more serious than a random attack on a medical convoy. "Corporal Rodriguez," Captain Wilson said, using her formal military designation rather than the casual medic that most people preferred. "I need to speak with you privately about this morning's incident. There are some aspects of the attack that require immediate attention." Emily followed Captain Wilson to his office, a Spartan space dominated by tactical maps and communication equipment. The captain's demeanor suggested this conversation would involve classified information, the kind of intelligence briefing that typically didn't include junior medical personnel. Wilson activated a white noise generator and closed the office door before settling behind his desk. "Rodriguez, what I'm about to tell you doesn't leave this room. This morning's attack wasn't random, and it wasn't the work of local insurgents or disorganized militia groups. Our intelligence indicates this was a precision operation conducted by professional snipers, possibly part of a larger network that's been targeting medical personnel throughout the region." Emily felt something cold settle in her stomach. Targeting medical personnel was a violation of international law, but more than that, it represented a fundamental shift in the nature of the conflict. Medical workers had traditionally been considered neutral parties, protected by international conventions and respected even by hostile forces. If that protection was breaking down, it meant the situation in Kaldestan was deteriorating in ways that could affect every humanitarian operation in the region. "Sir, do we have any intelligence on the specific threat level or operational capabilities of this network?" Emily asked, her question revealing a level of tactical awareness that might have surprised Captain Wilson if he hadn't already reviewed her complete military file. Wilson studied her for a moment before responding. "We believe they're part of an organization called the Desert Ghosts, a mercenary network that's been linked to attacks in 3 different countries over the past 18 months. They specialize in psychological warfare, targeting civilian infrastructure, and humanitarian operations to undermine public confidence in peacekeeping efforts." He activated a wall display showing satellite imagery of the fortress ruins overlooking the valley. "The shooter this morning was positioned here, in what locals call the Old Fortress of Saladin. It's been abandoned for decades, but it provides excellent observation of all major routes into and out of the valley. Our preliminary analysis suggests the shooter had military-grade equipment and advanced training." Emily studied the satellite imagery with the trained eye of someone who understood both medical logistics and tactical positioning. The fortress ruins commanded a perfect view of the valley floor, with multiple potential shooting positions and several escape routes through the rocky terrain. More importantly, anyone positioned there could observe and catalog the movement patterns of medical convoys, identifying vulnerabilities and planning future attacks. "Captain, if they're conducting systematic surveillance of our operations, they'll be able to predict our medical runs to the outlying villages. That puts both our personnel and the civilian populations at significant risk." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Wilson nodded grimly. "Exactly. Which brings me to why I wanted to speak with you specifically. Your personnel file indicates some interesting background elements that might be relevant to our current situation. Emily had been expecting this conversation ever since transferring to medical service, but she'd hoped it wouldn't come under these circumstances. Her transition from Marine Scout sniper to Navy hospital corpsman had been unusual enough to generate attention from military personnel officers, but she'd assumed her medical role would insulate her from tactical assignments. Sir, I transferred to medical service because I wanted to focus on saving lives rather than taking them. My previous training is in the past. Captain Wilson leaned forward, his expression serious. Rodriguez, I understand your position, and I respect your decision to pursue medical service. But we have a situation where professional snipers are hunting medical personnel, and you have a unique combination of skills that could be valuable in protecting your colleagues and the civilian population. The weight of what Wilson was suggesting settled over Emily like a familiar burden. She'd left the sniper program not because she lacked the ability or dedication, but because she'd wanted to build rather than destroy, to heal rather than harm. The transition to medical service had given her a sense of purpose that felt more aligned with her personal values. But now, those same values were putting her in a position where her old skills might be the only way to protect the people she'd sworn to serve. What exactly are you asking me to do, Captain? Wilson activated another display, this one showing intelligence reports from across the region. Over the past 6 months, the Desert Ghosts have killed 17 medical personnel in systematic attacks: doctors, nurses, aid workers, anyone involved in humanitarian operations. They're not just trying to disrupt our mission. They're trying to eliminate the people who provide hope and healing to civilian populations. Emily read through the reports, her medical training allowing her to understand the full implications of each attack. These weren't random killings or casualties of war. They were deliberate assassinations designed to create terror and despair among the very people the peacekeeping mission was supposed to protect. Sir, conventional military forces should be able to handle this threat. Counter-sniper operations are a standard part of security protocols. Under normal circumstances, yes. But the Desert Ghosts have been operating in this region for months, and conventional forces haven't been able to locate or engage them effectively. They use civilian areas for concealment, they move constantly, and they have intelligence sources that allow them to avoid military patrols. Wilson brought up a new image, this one showing the aftermath of an attack on a medical clinic in a neighboring province. The destruction was systematic and thorough, designed not just to eliminate the facility, but to send a message to anyone who might consider providing medical aid to the local population. Rodriguez, I'm not asking you to abandon your medical duties or return to a combat role. I'm asking you to consider how your unique background might help us protect medical operations and save lives. Sometimes the best way to serve as a healer is to neutralize the forces that are trying to prevent healing. Emily stared at the intelligence reports, thinking about the children she'd treated during medical runs to the outlying villages, the families who depended on coalition medical support, and the colleagues who trusted that their humanitarian mission would provide some protection against the violence that surrounded them. The sniper attack this morning had shattered that illusion of safety, but it had also revealed something that Emily had been trying to forget about herself. During the attack, while her colleagues had reacted with appropriate fear and confusion, Emily had found herself automatically calculating shooting angles, evaluating defensive positions, and assessing tactical options. Her transition to medical service had been genuine and complete, but it hadn't erased the foundational training that had made her one of the most promising sniper candidates in her Marine class. Captain, if I were to provide consultation on counter-sniper operations, it would have to be in addition to my medical duties, not instead of them. And any tactical recommendations would need to prioritize the protection of medical personnel and civilian populations. Wilson smiled for the first time since the conversation began. Rodriguez, I wouldn't expect anything less. Your primary assignment remains medical support, but your insights could be invaluable in keeping your colleagues alive. As Emily left Captain Wilson's office, she felt the familiar sensation of two different parts of her identity beginning to merge in ways she hadn't expected. For the past 2 years, she'd been successful in maintaining a clear separation between her former life as a Marine sniper and her current role as a Navy medic. The attack this morning had demonstrated that such separation might be a luxury she could no longer afford. That evening, Emily sat alone in her quarters, cleaning and inspecting the M40A6 sniper rifle that she'd kept locked in her personal storage container since arriving at Forward Operating Base Iron Shield. The weapon had been a gift from her grandfather, a Marine sniper who'd served in the Pacific Theater during World War II. It had been passed down through 3 generations of the Rodriguez family, each of whom had added their own modifications and refinements to what had become both a family heirloom and a precision instrument of war. Emily's father had carried this rifle during his tours in Vietnam, using it to protect his fellow Marines during some of the most dangerous operations of that conflict. Her grandfather before him had used an earlier version to eliminate Japanese snipers who were targeting American medics and aid stations. The weapon represented a family tradition of using precision marksmanship not for aggression or conquest, but for protection and defense of those who couldn't protect themselves. As Emily reassembled the rifle, her hands moved with the muscle memory of countless hours of training and maintenance. The familiar weight and balance of the weapon brought back memories of early morning sessions on the rifle range, learning the fundamentals of marksmanship from her father during summer visits to the family ranch in New Mexico. Those lessons had covered more than just shooting. They'd included wind reading, range estimation, camouflage, fieldcraft, and most importantly, the ethical responsibility that came with the power to take life at great distance. A sniper's greatest weapon isn't the rifle, her father had told her during one of those training sessions. It's the discipline to know when not to shoot. Any fool can pull a trigger. A professional knows that every shot has consequences that extend far beyond the target. Emily had carried that philosophy through her Marine training and into her decision to transfer to medical service. But now, sitting alone with her grandfather's rifle and thinking about the 17 medical workers who had been killed by the desert ghosts, she was beginning to understand that sometimes the consequences of not shooting could be just as significant as the consequences of taking action. Her personal communication device chimed with an encrypted message from her brother Alex, who was currently deployed with an Army Special Forces unit in another part of the world. The Rodriguez family maintained regular contact despite their scattered assignments, sharing updates on their various missions and providing mutual support during difficult deployments. Heard about the incident at your base through unofficial channels. Are you okay? Dad's worried about the security situation in your area. Let me know if you need anything. Family motto still applies. Emily smiled at the reference to their family motto: precision, protection, purpose. It had been developed by her grandfather during his Marine service and had guided 3 generations of Rodriguez family military members through various conflicts and challenges. The motto emphasized that their unique skills came with corresponding responsibilities to protect others and serve purposes larger than themselves. Emily typed her response carefully, knowing that even encrypted communications could be monitored. I'm fine, situation under control. Medical mission continues. May need to remember some old lessons. We'll keep you posted. Alex's response came immediately. Understood. Remember what Dad always said about family skills being passed down for a reason. Support available if needed. Stay safe, little sister. Emily set aside her communication device and returned her attention to the rifle. Tomorrow she would begin what she suspected would be a complex balancing act, Between her medical duties and her growing involvement in protecting coalition medical operations from the desert ghosts, the transition wouldn't be easy, but it was becoming clear that her unique combination of skills had positioned her for a role that no one else could fill. The next morning brought news that would accelerate Emily's involvement in counter-sniper operations far beyond what Captain Wilson had originally envisioned. Dr. Halil Osman, a civilian physician who operated a small clinic in Beta Village, had been killed during the night by a single precision shot while treating patients in his facility. The attack had been witnessed by several villagers, who reported that the shooter had waited patiently for Dr. Osman to position himself near a window before taking the fatal shot. Emily received the news while conducting morning medical briefings with her team. The impact on morale was immediate and devastating. Dr. Osman had been known throughout the region as someone who provided medical care to anyone who needed it, regardless of their political affiliations or tribal associations. His murder represented not just the loss of a skilled physician, but the elimination of a symbol of hope and healing in a region that had seen too much violence. "This changes everything," Dr. Bennett announced to the assembled medical staff. Coalition Command is implementing enhanced security protocols for all medical operations. No more solo runs to outlying villages. All medical transports will have armed escorts. All medical facilities will have enhanced defensive positions. Emily listened to the new protocols with growing concern. Enhanced security measures would certainly reduce the risk to medical personnel, but they would also reduce the effectiveness of humanitarian operations. The local population had learned to trust coalition medical teams precisely because they operated with minimal military presence, emphasizing healing rather than force. Adding armed escorts and defensive positions would change the fundamental nature of their mission. After the briefing, Emily approached Dr. Bennett with a proposal that she'd been developing since her conversation with Captain Wilson. "Sir, I'd like to volunteer for a special assignment that could help address the sniper threat while maintaining our medical mission priorities." Dr. Bennett looked at her with surprise. Emily had never been one to seek additional responsibilities or volunteer for assignments outside her normal duties. "What kind of special assignment, Rodriguez?" "Counter-sniper consultation and threat assessment. My background includes training that could be valuable at identifying and neutralizing the specific threats targeting medical operations." Bennett frowned. "Rodriguez, you're a medic, not a tactical specialist. Counter-sniper operations are outside your area of expertise." Emily had expected this response, but she'd also prepared for it. "Sir, with respect, my personnel file includes qualifications that might be relevant to our current security situation. I'd like to request a meeting with Captain Wilson to discuss how my background could support medical mission protection." Something in Emily's tone must have suggested that there was more to her request than Dr. Bennett realized, because his expression shifted from dismissive to curious. "Rodriguez, exactly what qualifications are you referring to?" Emily met his gaze steadily. "Marine Scout sniper training, sir. Top 10% of my class before transferring to medical service." The silence that followed this revelation was profound. Dr. Bennett stared at Emily as if seeing her for the first time, trying to reconcile the quiet medic he thought he knew with the possibility that she might be one of the most lethal individuals on the base. "Rodriguez, why didn't you mention this during your assignment briefing?" "Because it wasn't relevant to my medical duties, sir. I transferred to medical service because I wanted to focus on saving lives, not taking them. But circumstances may require using all available skills to protect medical operations and civilian populations." Dr. Bennett was quiet for a long moment, processing the implications of Emily's revelation. Finally, he nodded slowly. "I'll arrange a meeting with Captain Wilson. But Rodriguez, I want to be clear about something. Your primary responsibility remains medical support. Whatever additional duties you might take on cannot compromise your effectiveness as a medic." Emily understood the concern behind Dr. Bennett's statement. Military medical personnel operated under strict ethical guidelines that prioritized healing and humanitarian service. Adding tactical responsibilities to her role could create conflicts between her medical obligations and her potential involvement in combat operations. Sir, I understand the ethical considerations. Any tactical support I provide would be focused specifically on protecting medical operations and civilian populations. The goal would be to create an environment where medical personnel can operate safely, not to engage in offensive combat operations. As Emily left Dr. Bennett's office, she realized that her careful separation between her former and current military roles was ending. The Desert Ghosts had forced a situation where her medical mission could only be protected through the application of tactical skills she'd hoped never to use again. The challenge would be maintaining her identity as a healer while accepting the necessity of becoming, once again, a warrior. The emergency call came at 0347 hours, piercing the pre-dawn silence of forward operating base Iron Shield with the urgency that every medical professional dreaded. Emily jolted awake in her narrow bunk, her training immediately overriding the disorientation of interrupted sleep. The base-wide announcement crackled through the speakers with clinical precision that barely masked the underlying desperation. Medical emergency, Sector 7. Multiple casualties, Priority Alpha. All available medical personnel report to emergency stations immediately. Emily was already pulling on her boots before the announcement finished, her hands moving through the familiar ritual of preparing for trauma response. In the 18 months since arriving at Iron Shield, she had responded to dozens of emergency calls, but something about the tone in the communications officer's voice suggested this incident would be different, more complex, more dangerous. The medical bay erupted into controlled chaos as Emily and her colleagues transformed the quiet facility into a full-scale trauma center. Dr. Bennett appeared from his quarters, his usually pristine uniform hastily assembled, barking orders to the nursing staff as they prepared surgical equipment and organized treatment areas. The efficiency of the response reflected months of drilling and preparation, but Emily could see the tension in her colleagues' faces as they waited for details about what they would be treating. Rodriguez, Dr. Bennett called out, his voice cutting through the noise of preparation. I'm putting you on primary triage. We have incoming casualties from a coordinated attack on Checkpoint Bravo. Initial reports suggest multiple gunshot wounds, possible explosive trauma, and at least one critical head injury. Emily nodded, moving immediately to the triage station where she would make the life or death decisions about treatment priority. Triage was both an art and a science, requiring split-second evaluations of injury severity, treatment requirements, and resource allocation. It was also one of the most psychologically demanding aspects of military medicine, because it meant accepting that some patients would receive treatment while others would not. The first helicopter arrived 7 minutes after the initial call, its rotors creating a whirlwind of dust and debris as it settled onto the landing pad adjacent to the medical facility. Emily positioned herself at the primary receiving point, her trained eyes already assessing the blood patterns on the aircraft's exterior and the urgency in the flight. Medics' movements as the crew began unloading stretchers. First casualty. Coalition Forces male, approximately 25 years old, the flight medic shouted over the engine noise. Multiple gunshot wounds to the torso and extremities. Lost significant blood volume during transport. Blood pressure dropping, pulse weak but stable. Emily's hands moved with practiced precision as she conducted her primary assessment, checking vital signs, evaluating wound patterns, and making rapid calculations about treatment priorities. The soldier's injuries were severe but survivable, with immediate surgical intervention. More importantly, the wound patterns told a story that only someone with Emily's unique background would fully understand. Entry wounds are consistent with high-velocity rifle fire from an elevated position. Emily called out to Dr. Bennett as they moved the patient toward the surgical bay. Trajectory analysis suggests the shooter was positioned approximately 4 to 600 meters northeast of the checkpoint, probably in the rocky outcropping that overlooks the main road. Dr. Bennett glanced at her with surprise. "Rodriguez, how are you determining trajectory from wound patterns?" Emily realized she had revealed more tactical knowledge than most medics would possess, but the information was too important to withhold. "The angle of entry and the tissue damage patterns indicate specific ballistic characteristics, sir. This information could be valuable for security teams trying to locate the shooter." The second helicopter brought more casualties, including a Kurdish militia member who had been providing security support at the checkpoint. Emily's assessment revealed shrapnel wounds consistent with an improvised explosive device, but the placement and pattern suggested professional military demolitions rather than crude homemade bombs. "Sir," Emily reported to Dr. Bennett as they worked to stabilize the militia fighter, "the explosive wounds show characteristics of military-grade ordnance. Fragmentation pattern suggests controlled detonation designed to maximize casualties while minimizing structural damage." Dr. Bennett paused in his surgical preparation to look at Emily directly. "Rodriguez, your analysis is remarkably detailed for someone with purely medical training. Are you certain about these tactical assessments?" Emily met his gaze steadily, knowing that her credibility was being evaluated along with her medical competence. "Sir, I spent 2 years studying battlefield wound patterns and ballistic trauma before transferring to medical service. The information I'm providing could help prevent similar casualties. Security teams understand the specific threats they're facing." The third casualty presented Emily with the most challenging triage decision of her career. A young Kurdish woman, probably a civilian who had been in the wrong place during the attack, arrived with massive head trauma and multiple system failures. Emily's medical training told her immediately that the injuries were beyond the capabilities of their field hospital, but her tactical experience recognized something that chilled her to the bone. The woman had been shot in the head with a precision rifle from long range, but the wound pattern suggested the shooter had deliberately chosen a non-fatal angle. This wasn't an execution, it was a message. Someone had intentionally inflicted devastating but survivable injuries, knowing that treating such a patient would consume massive medical resources while providing minimal chance of recovery. "Dr. Bennett," Emily called out quietly, "I need to speak with you privately about the head trauma patient." Bennett approached the stretcher where Emily was conducting her assessment, his expression indicating he had already reached similar conclusions about the severity of the injuries. "What's your evaluation, Rodriguez?" Emily spoke quietly, knowing that her words would determine how the medical team allocated their limited resources. "Sir, the injuries are consistent with deliberate targeting designed to create maximum burden on medical resources. The shooter had the skill to make a clean kill but chose not to. This patient represents a tactical decision by the enemy to overwhelm our medical capabilities." The weight of that realization settled over both medical professionals like a physical burden. They were dealing with an enemy who understood not just military tactics but medical protocols, someone who knew that inflicting survivable but resource-intensive injuries could be more damaging than simple killing. Dr. Bennett made the decision that his training and experience demanded. "Palliative care, Rodriguez. Make her comfortable, but we need to focus resources on patients with realistic recovery prospects." Emily nodded, understanding the terrible logic of battlefield medicine while feeling the personal impact of watching someone die who might be saved in a different environment. As she administered pain medication and monitoring equipment to the young woman, Emily found herself thinking about the sniper who had made this tactical decision. Professional skill, combined with deliberate cruelty, suggested an opponent who understood both warfare and psychology. The emergency response continued for 3 hours. with Emily coordinating triage decisions while Dr. Bennett and the surgical team worked to save the most critical patients. By the time the last casualty had been stabilized, Emily had processed 12 wounded individuals, making split-second decisions about treatment priority that would determine who lived and who died. During the post-incident briefing, Captain Wilson appeared in the medical bay with Agent Lisa Park, a military intelligence officer who had arrived at Iron Shield the previous week. Emily had noticed Agent Park around the base, but had assumed she was conducting routine security assessments related to the recent sniper incidents. Dr. Bennett, Corporal Rodriguez, Captain Wilson began. Agent Park needs to debrief your team about the tactical aspects of this morning's casualties. There are elements of the attack that require immediate intelligence analysis. Agent Park activated a tablet and began displaying tactical maps of Checkpoint Bravo and the surrounding terrain. The attack on Checkpoint Bravo was conducted by at least 3 separate elements using coordinated timing and professional military tactics. 1 sniper, 1 demolition specialist, and 1 support element for intelligence gathering and escape coordination. Emily studied the maps, her mind automatically analyzing the attack pattern and comparing it to the wound pattern she had observed during triage. The tactical sophistication suggested professional military training, but the deliberate infliction of resource-intensive injuries indicated someone who understood medical operations at a detailed level. Agent Park, Emily said, the casualty pattern suggests the attackers had specific knowledge of our medical protocols and resource limitations. The injuries were designed to overwhelm our treatment capabilities rather than simply maximize fatalities. Agent Park looked at Emily with renewed interest. Corporal Rodriguez, that's a remarkably sophisticated tactical analysis. What training background allows you to make those assessments? Emily realized she had reached another decision point about revealing her background. Her tactical insights were clearly valuable to the intelligence analysis, but sharing them would inevitably lead to questions about her qualifications and potentially change her role at the base. Agent Park, I have additional military training that might be relevant to understanding the enemy tactics we're facing. I'd like to request a private briefing to discuss how my background could support the intelligence analysis. Captain Wilson and Agent Park exchanged glances, clearly recognizing that Emily possessed information or skills that went beyond her official medical role. Agent Park nodded slowly, making notes on her tablet. Corporal Rodriguez, I'll arrange a classified briefing for later today. Your insights could be valuable in understanding the operational capabilities and tactical doctrine of the forces we're facing. As the medical team completed their post-incident procedures and began preparing for potential additional casualties, Emily found herself reflecting on how rapidly her role was evolving. 3 days ago, she had been a medic focused exclusively on providing trauma care and medical support. Now she was providing tactical analysis to military intelligence and preparing to reveal specialized training that she had hoped to keep separate from her medical duties. The transformation wasn't comfortable, but it was becoming necessary. The Desert Ghosts were conducting a sophisticated psychological warfare campaign that targeted not just military forces but the civilian population's confidence in coalition protection. Medical facilities and personnel were being systematically eliminated to create despair and undermine the peacekeeping mission's effectiveness. That afternoon, Emily met with Agent Park in a secure briefing room equipped with electronic countermeasures and classified communication systems. The intelligence officer had clearly conducted research on Emily's background, because her first question addressed information that wouldn't have been available in standard personnel files. Corporal Rodriguez, your personnel record indicates an unusual career transition from Marine Scout sniper training to Navy hospital corpsman. That's not a typical path for someone with your qualifications and performance ratings. What motivated the change? Emily had prepared for this question, but answering it required her to articulate personal decisions that she hadn't fully explained even to her family. Agent Park, I completed sniper training because I wanted to serve my country and protect fellow service members. But during advanced tactical training, I realized that my personal values were more aligned with healing than with killing. I transferred to medical service because I wanted to build rather than destroy. Agent Park made notes while studying Emily's expression. But you maintained your tactical skills and continued advanced marksmanship training, even after transferring to medical service. Emily nodded. My family has a 3-generation tradition of military snipers. The skills and knowledge are part of my background, but I chose to apply them in support of medical missions rather than combat operations. Agent Park activated a secure display, showing intelligence reports from across the region. Corman Rodriguez, the enemy network we're facing, has killed 23 medical personnel in the past 8 months. They're not just targeting military medics. They're systematically eliminating doctors, nurses, aid workers, and anyone involved in humanitarian operations. Emily read through the reports, recognizing names of medical professionals she had worked with during interagency coordination meetings. The scope and systematic nature of the killings suggested an organized campaign rather than opportunistic violence. Agent Park, this represents a deliberate strategy to eliminate medical infrastructure and demoralize civilian populations. The attackers understand that removing medical care creates hopelessness and undermines confidence in coalition protection. Agent Park leaned forward. Exactly. Which brings me to why I requested this briefing. We need someone who understands both medical operations and advanced tactical procedures. Someone who can think like a sniper while protecting medical missions. Emily understood where the conversation was leading, but she needed to establish clear boundaries about her role and responsibilities. Agent Park, I'm willing to provide tactical consultation and threat assessment, but my primary responsibility remains medical support. Any additional duties cannot compromise my effectiveness as a medic. Agent Park smiled for the first time during their conversation. Corman Rodriguez, we're not asking you to abandon your medical duties. We're asking you to help protect them. Part 3. The greater threat emergence. The intelligence briefing that Agent Park conducted over the following 2 hours revealed a threat landscape far more complex and dangerous than Emily had realized. The Desert Ghosts weren't simply a local insurgent group or opportunistic criminals targeting medical facilities. They represented a sophisticated international network with advanced equipment, professional training, and systematic operational procedures that had been refined through campaigns in multiple countries. Agent Park activated a wall-mounted display showing a map of the Middle East, Africa, and Central Asia marked with dozens of red indicators representing confirmed Desert Ghosts operations over the past 3 years. The pattern revealed a deliberate campaign of targeting medical infrastructure across regions affected by conflict or instability. The organization calls itself the Desert Ghosts, but intelligence agencies have identified at least 47 individual operators working under that designation, Agent Park explained. They're not ideologically motivated. They're mercenaries who specialize in psychological warfare through the systematic elimination of medical and humanitarian infrastructure. Emily studied the map, noting the geographical spread and temporal patterns of the attacks. The Desert Ghosts had clearly developed a sophisticated understanding of how medical operations functioned in conflict zones, identifying vulnerabilities and exploiting them with military precision. Agent Park, the attack patterns suggest they have detailed intelligence about medical protocols, supply routes, and personnel assignments. How are they obtaining operational information? Agent Park's expression darkened. That's one of our primary concerns. The Desert Ghosts appear to have access to intelligence sources that allow them to predict medical operations and target specific individuals. We believe they may have infiltrated humanitarian organizations or corrupted local information sources. The implications of systematic intelligence penetration sent a chill through Emily's professional consciousness. Medical operations depended on trust and cooperation with local populations, tribal leaders, and government officials. If that information network had been compromised, every medical mission was potentially walking into a prepared ambush. What specific threats are we facing in our operational area? Emily asked. Agent Park brought up satellite imagery of the Qadesh Valley and surrounding mountain ranges, highlighting specific locations with tactical annotations. Current intelligence indicates at least 3 Desert Ghosts operatives are active in northern Kaldestan. We've designated them by operational call signs based on their tactical signatures and preferred methods. The first designation appeared on the screen with accompanying analysis of attack patterns and weapon characteristics. Designation: Sandman. Real name believed to be Yusuf al-Hasim, former Syrian army sniper with advanced training from Russian Special Forces advisors. Specializes in long-range precision elimination of medical personnel. Responsible for at least 12 confirmed kills across 3 countries. Emily studied the tactical analysis, noting the weapon preferences and operational patterns that suggested professional military training combined with extensive field experience. Sandman's attack methods showed patience, precision, and systematic preparation that marked him as a particularly dangerous opponent. Designation: Red Scope, Agent Park continued. Real name believed to be Viktor Petrov, former Spetsnaz operator turned mercenary. Specializes in close-range infiltration and elimination of medical facilities. Responsible for the destruction of 7 medical clinics and the deaths of at least 15 medical personnel. The third designation made Emily's blood run cold. Designation: Silent Storm. Real name unknown. Background unknown. Specializes in psychological warfare through the infliction of survivable but resource-intensive injuries designed to overwhelm medical capabilities. Responsible for at least 37 casualties that required extensive medical resources while providing minimal recovery prospects. Emily realized that Silent Storm was the operative responsible for the deliberately inflicted head trauma she had encountered during the morning's casualty processing. The tactical sophistication and psychological cruelty suggested someone who understood medical operations from the inside, possibly someone with medical training who had chosen to weaponize that knowledge. Agent Park, Silent Storm's operational methods suggest detailed understanding of medical protocols and resource allocation. Is it possible this operative has medical training or background? Agent Park nodded grimly. Intelligence analysis suggests Silent Storm may be a former medical professional who has applied clinical knowledge to maximize the psychological impact of injuries. The precision required to inflict survivable but devastating trauma suggests surgical training. The briefing continued with tactical analysis of recent operations, communication intercepts, and intelligence assessments about the Desert Ghost's immediate objectives in northern Kaldestan. The picture that emerged was of a coordinated campaign designed to eliminate medical infrastructure and create a humanitarian crisis that would undermine the entire peacekeeping mission. Their immediate objective appears to be the elimination of coalition medical capabilities in this region, Agent Park explained. Intelligence intercepts suggest they're planning a coordinated operation against forward operating Base Iron Shield and the medical facilities we support in the surrounding villages. Emily felt the weight of personal and professional threats settling over her like a physical burden. The Desert Ghosts weren't just targeting medical operations in general. They were specifically planning to attack her base, her colleagues, and the civilian populations that depended on coalition medical support. What timeline are we looking at for this coordinated operation? Agent Park consulted her classified tablet before responding. Communication intercepts suggest they're in the final preparation phase. We estimate they'll be ready to execute within 72 to 96 hours. Emily's mind immediately began analyzing the tactical challenges of defending medical operations against professional snipers with detailed intelligence about their procedures and vulnerabilities. Traditional security measures would provide some protection, but they would also compromise the medical mission's effectiveness and accessibility to civilian populations. Agent Park, enhanced security protocols will reduce our vulnerability, but they'll also reduce our ability to provide medical support to the civilian population. The Desert Ghosts appear to understand that either outcome serves their strategic objectives. Agent Park smiled grimly. Exactly, which is why we need a different approach. Something that addresses the threat without compromising the medical mission. Emily understood that the conversation was moving toward a specific proposal that would involve her tactical background. The question was whether she was prepared to accept a role that would fundamentally change her relationship with both her medical duties and her personal identity. What kind of different approach are you considering? Agent Park activated another display showing tactical maps of the region around Iron Shield, marked with suspected Desert Ghost positions and probable attack routes. We need someone who can think like a sniper while operating within the medical mission framework. Someone who can identify and neutralize specific threats without compromising humanitarian operations. Emily studied the tactical maps, her training automatically analyzing sight lines, defensive positions, and operational vulnerabilities. The Desert Ghosts had chosen their targets well. Iron Shield was positioned in a valley that provided excellent defensive capabilities, but also created predictable movement patterns for medical operations. Agent Park, counter-sniper operations in this terrain would require detailed knowledge of enemy positions, movement patterns, and tactical preferences. Do we have sufficient intelligence to support targeted operations? Agent Park's expression suggested she had been hoping Emily would ask that specific question. We have partial intelligence on 2 of the 3 operatives, but we need someone with professional sniper training to analyze their tactical signatures and predict their operational choices. Emily realized she was being offered an opportunity to apply her specialized training in direct support of her medical mission. The ethical considerations were complex, but the fundamental objective aligned with her core values: protecting people who couldn't protect themselves and ensuring that medical care remained available to civilian populations. Agent Park, if I were to provide tactical consultation, what would be the scope and limitations of my involvement? Agent Park opened a classified folder and extracted documents that had clearly been prepared in advance. You would maintain your primary assignment as medical personnel, but you would also serve as tactical advisor for counter-sniper operations. Your medical duties would take priority, but your tactical expertise would be available for threat assessment and neutralization planning. Emily reviewed the proposed assignment parameters, noting that the documentation had been prepared with input from military legal advisors and medical ethics specialists. Someone had anticipated her concerns about maintaining her medical role while accepting tactical responsibilities. This assignment would require me to potentially engage in lethal operations while maintaining my medical duties. How do we address the ethical conflicts between healing and killing? Agent Park had clearly prepared for this question as well. The assignment framework focuses on protection rather than aggression. Your tactical involvement would be limited to neutralizing specific threats to medical operations and civilian populations. The objective is to create an environment where medical personnel can operate safely. Emily understood the careful legal and ethical language being used to frame her potential role. She would be acting in defense of medical operations rather than conducting offensive combat operations. The distinction was important both legally and personally, but it didn't eliminate the fundamental conflict between her medical oath and her potential involvement in lethal operations. I need time to consider this assignment and its implications. Agent Park nodded. Corporal Rodriguez, I understand the complexity of what we're asking, but I also need you to understand the urgency of our situation. Intelligence indicates the desert ghosts are accelerating their operational timeline. We may have less than 72 hours before they execute their coordinated attack. Emily left the briefing room with her mind churning through tactical possibilities, ethical considerations, and personal decisions that would determine not just her own future, but potentially the lives of her colleagues and the civilian populations they served. The transition from pure medical service to a hybrid role that included tactical responsibilities represented a fundamental change in her military identity. That evening, Emily sat in her quarters reviewing the classified materials Agent Park had provided while conducting routine maintenance on her grandfather's M40A6 rifle. The weapon represented 3 generations of Rodriguez family military service, but it also symbolized a commitment to protecting others that transcended specific military roles or assignments. Her secure communication device chimed with an encrypted message from her brother Alex, whose Special Forces unit had apparently been briefed about the situation in northern Kaldestan through unofficial intelligence channels. Word is spreading about your situation through the community. Dad's concerned about the tactical complexities you're facing. Remember that family skills and knowledge are available if you need support. Sometimes the best way to serve as a healer is to eliminate the forces that prevent healing. Emily typed her response carefully, knowing that even encrypted family communications could be monitored by intelligence agencies. Situation is complex but manageable. May need to remember. Family lessons about precision and protection. Will keep you informed about developments. Alex's immediate response suggested he had been waiting for her message. Understood. Support network is available on short notice if operational requirements change. Family motto applies: precision, protection, purpose. Emily understood that her brother was offering more than moral support. The Rodriguez family had developed relationships with military specialists and intelligence operators throughout Alex's Special Forces career. If the situation in northern Kaldestan required additional tactical expertise, her family's network could provide resources that went far beyond official military channels. As Emily prepared for what would likely be her last night of purely medical duties, she found herself thinking about the path that had led her from Marine Scout sniper training to Navy Hospital Corpsman service to her current position as a potential hybrid medical tactical operative. Each transition had been motivated by her core commitment to protecting people who couldn't protect themselves, but the methods required to fulfill that commitment were becoming increasingly complex. The desert ghosts had created a situation where traditional approaches to both medical service and military security were inadequate. They had weaponized their understanding of medical protocols to create tactical advantages, forcing medical personnel to choose between effectiveness and safety. Emily's unique combination of skills positioned her to address that challenge, but accepting the role would require integrating 2 aspects of her identity that she had worked to keep separate. Tomorrow she would need to provide Agent Park with her decision about the tactical advisor assignment. But tonight, Emily completed her medical duties, checked on the patients who had survived the morning's attack, and prepared herself mentally for what might be her transformation from a medic who happened to have tactical training into a tactical operator whose primary mission was protecting medical operations. Part 4. Escalating external threat. The attack on Beta Village came without warning at 0623 hours, announced by the distant rumble of explosions that echoed across the Qadesh Valley like thunder on a clear morning. Emily was conducting pre-dawn medical inventory when the first radio reports crackled through the communication system, describing a systematic assault on the civilian medical clinic that served 3,000 people scattered across the remote mountain settlements. Base. Iron Shield, this is Patrol 7, the radio transmission reported through bursts of static and background noise. Beta Village Clinic is under direct fire. Multiple explosions, heavy smoke visible from our position. No response to radio calls from medical personnel. Emily felt her blood turn to ice water as she processed the implications of the attack. Dr. Halil Osman ran the Beta Clinic with 2 nurses and a medical technician, providing basic health care to families who had no other access to medical treatment. They were civilians protected under international humanitarian law, operating a clearly marked medical facility in an area that had been considered secure for over 8 months. Captain Wilson's voice came through the facility-wide communication system with the controlled urgency that marked a serious tactical situation. All medical personnel report to emergency stations. All security teams implement enhanced defensive protocols. This is not a drill. Emily abandoned her inventory duties and moved quickly to the medical bay where Dr. Bennett was already coordinating emergency response procedures. The controlled chaos of preparation felt different this time, charged with the knowledge that they were no longer dealing with isolated incidents, but with a coordinated campaign against medical infrastructure. "Rodriguez," Dr. Bennett called out as Emily arrived at her station. "I'm assigning you to medical evacuation response. Intelligence indicates we may have casualties incoming from Beta Village, but the security situation is unclear." Emily nodded, beginning immediate preparation of trauma response equipment while her mind automatically analyzed the tactical implications of the attack timing and target selection. Beta Village was 12 kilometers northeast of Iron Shield, positioned in a valley that provided only 2 practical routes for medical evacuation. If the Desert Ghosts had planned their operation carefully, they would have positioned themselves to interdict any rescue attempts. Agent Park appeared in the medical bay, carrying a tablet loaded with real-time intelligence updates and tactical assessments. Her expression suggested that the Beta attack was more serious than the initial radio. Our EPORTS had indicated. "Dr. Bennett, Corporal Rodriguez," Agent Park began. "I need to brief you on the tactical situation before any medical evacuation attempts. The attack on Beta Village shows characteristics of a complex, coordinated operation designed to draw coalition forces into a prepared killing zone." Emily looked up from her equipment preparation. "Agent Park, are you saying the clinic attack is bait for a larger ambush?" Agent Park activated her tablet display, showing satellite imagery of the Beta Valley and surrounding terrain. "Exactly. The initial explosions destroyed the clinic's communication equipment and created casualties that require immediate medical evacuation. But surveillance indicates potential sniper positions established along both practical evacuation routes." Emily studied the tactical map, her training automatically identifying the sightlines, defensive positions, and escape routes that a professional sniper would utilize in that terrain. The Desert Ghosts had chosen their ambush positions with considerable skill, creating overlapping fields of fire that would make medical evacuation extremely dangerous. What about air evacuation? Helicopter medical transport could avoid the ground routes entirely. Agent Park's expression darkened. Intelligence intercepts suggest the Desert Ghosts have acquired portable surface-to-air missiles. Air evacuation would expose medical helicopters to sophisticated anti-aircraft threats. The tactical sophistication of the Desert Ghosts operation was becoming clear to Emily. They had created a situation where any attempt to provide medical assistance to Beta Village would expose coalition forces to carefully prepared ambush. But refusing to attempt evacuation would mean abandoning civilian medical personnel and potentially allowing preventable deaths. Dr. Bennett had been listening to the tactical briefing with growing concern. "Agent Park, are you saying we cannot provide medical evacuation to Beta Village without unacceptable risk to our personnel?" Agent Park hesitated before responding. "Dr. Bennett, standard medical evacuation protocols would be extremely dangerous given the current tactical situation. We need alternative approaches that account for the sophisticated threats we're facing." Emily understood that Agent Park was carefully avoiding a direct statement that medical evacuation was impossible, but the implication was clear. The Desert Ghosts had created a tactical situation where traditional medical response would likely result in additional casualties among coalition medical personnel. "Agent Park," Emily said quietly, "alternative approaches would require tactical capabilities beyond standard medical evacuation procedures. Are you suggesting specialized operations to neutralize the threat before attempting evacuation?" Agent Park met Emily's gaze directly. "Corporal Rodriguez, I'm suggesting that someone with your unique qualifications might be able to develop creative solutions to this tactical problem." Emily realized that her decision about accepting the tactical advisor assignment had just become irrelevant. The Desert Ghosts had created an immediate crisis that required her specialized skills, whether she had officially accepted additional duties or not. Dr. Osman and his medical staff were trapped in Hamra Village, possibly wounded, definitely under threat and unable to evacuate through normal procedures. "Dr. Bennett," Emily said, "I request permission to conduct tactical reconnaissance to assess evacuation possibilities for Hamra Village medical personnel." Dr. Bennett looked at Emily with the expression of someone who was beginning to understand that his quiet medic possessed capabilities that went far beyond standard medical training. "Rodriguez, tactical reconnaissance is outside the scope of medical personnel duties." Emily met his gaze steadily. "Sir, medical evacuation is within the scope of medical personnel duties. If tactical reconnaissance is required to conduct safe medical evacuation, then it becomes a medical support activity." Agent Park was making notes on her tablet while following the conversation between Emily and Dr. Bennett. "Dr. Bennett, Corporal Rodriguez has specialized training that could be valuable in developing evacuation options. Her assessment could provide information that standard reconnaissance teams might miss." Emily understood that Agent Park was providing Dr. Bennett with official justification for allowing her to conduct tactical operations under medical mission authority. The bureaucratic maneuvering was necessary, but it was also consuming time that Dr. Osman and his staff might not have. "Sir," Emily said, "every minute we spend discussing authorization is a minute that medical personnel in Hamra Village remain under threat. I can conduct reconnaissance that provides tactical information while maintaining medical mission authority." Dr. Bennett was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing the risks of allowing his medic to conduct dangerous reconnaissance against the risks of abandoning medical personnel who needed immediate assistance. Finally, he nodded slowly. "Rodriguez, you have authorization to conduct medical evacuation reconnaissance. But I want real-time communication during your operation, and I want you back at this base within 4 hours regardless of what you discover." Emily began immediate preparation for what would be her first tactical operation since transferring to medical service. The equipment requirements were different from standard medical duties, but her training and experience provided clear guidance about what she would need for reconnaissance in hostile territory. Her personal M40A6 rifle would provide precision capability if she encountered direct threats. Advanced optics would allow detailed observation of enemy positions from safe distances. Communications equipment would maintain contact with iron shield while providing tactical intelligence to support evacuation planning. Medical supplies would allow her to provide immediate treatment if she reached Dr. Osman's team. Agent Park approached Emily as she completed her equipment preparation. "Corporal Rodriguez, I need to provide you with classified intelligence about the specific threats you may encounter during reconnaissance." Emily followed Agent Park to a secure communication area where she could receive detailed briefings about Desert Ghost's operational procedures and tactical capabilities. The information she received over the following 30 minutes would fundamentally change her understanding of the enemy they were facing. Current intelligence indicates that Sandman is personally leading the Hamra Village operation, Agent Park explained. Satellite surveillance has identified his probable position in the ruins of an ancient watchtower that overlooks the clinic. He's using advanced optics and precision rifle equipment that allows engagement at ranges exceeding 1,000 meters. Emily studied satellite imagery of the watchtower ruins, automatically analyzing the defensive advantages and potential vulnerabilities of Sandman's position. The location provided excellent observation of the clinic and surrounding valley, but it also created limitations in terms of escape routes and fields of fire. Agent Park, Sandman's position provides tactical advantages, but it also makes him predictable. If I can approach from an unexpected direction, I might be able to conduct close reconnaissance without detection. Agent Park highlighted additional tactical intelligence on her display. Red scope is positioned in the valley floor, probably in the abandoned buildings adjacent to the clinic. His role appears to be close-range elimination of any medical personnel who attempt to evacuate casualties. Emily noted that the Desert Ghosts had established overlapping positions that provided mutual support while covering different aspects of the tactical situation. Professional military planning combined with detailed intelligence about medical evacuation procedures had created a sophisticated trap. What about Silent Storm? Agent Park's expression became grim. Intelligence suggests Silent Storm is not directly involved in the beta operation, but communication intercepts indicate he may be preparing a separate operation targeting Iron Shield while our attention is focused on evacuation attempts. The complexity of the Desert Ghosts operation was becoming clear to Emily. They had created multiple tactical problems that would force coalition forces to divide their attention and resources, reducing the effectiveness of response to any single threat. More importantly, they had demonstrated detailed understanding of how military medical units would respond to attacks on civilian medical facilities. Agent Park, this operation shows sophisticated intelligence about our procedures and capabilities. How are they obtaining detailed information about medical protocols and response procedures? Agent Park hesitated before responding. Corporal Rodriguez, that's one of our most serious concerns. The Desert Ghosts appear to have access to information. Sources within either coalition forces or the civilian population we're supposed to protect. The implications of systematic intelligence penetration added another layer of complexity to Emily's reconnaissance mission. If the Desert Ghosts had detailed information about coalition medical procedures, they might also have advance warning about her reconnaissance operation. Emily completed her mission preparation and reported to Dr. Bennett for final authorization and communication protocols. The medical officer looked at Emily with an expression that mixed professional concern with personal respect for her dedication to protecting fellow medical personnel. Rodriguez, your primary mission is reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. You are not authorized to engage enemy forces unless absolutely necessary for self-defense or protection of medical personnel. Your secondary mission is assessment of evacuation possibilities for Dr. Osman's team. Emily understood the careful language Dr. Bennett was using to provide her with maximum operational flexibility while maintaining medical mission authority. She was being authorized to conduct tactical operations under medical mission justification, but she was also being given discretion about how to respond to tactical situations she might encounter. Sir, understood. Reconnaissance and evacuation. Assessment, with engagement authority limited to protection of medical personnel and self-defense. Emily left Iron Shield in 0847 hours. Driving a lightly armored medical vehicle that would provide both transportation and medical evacuation capability if she succeeded in reaching Dr. Osman's team. The route to Beta Village followed mountain roads that provided excellent concealment, but also created numerous potential ambush sites. As Emily drove toward her first tactical operation in over 2 years, she found herself transitioning mentally from medical service orientation to the focused tactical awareness that had characterized her Marine sniper training. The psychological transformation was both familiar and unsettling, representing a return to skills and mindsets that she had hoped to leave behind when she transferred to medical service. But the Desert Ghosts had created a situation where her medical mission could only be protected through the Application of tactical capabilities. Dr. Osman and his staff were depending on her unique combination of skills for their survival. And the broader medical mission in northern Kaldestan was under systematic attack that required specialized response. Emily reached the ridge overlooking Beta Village at 0923 hours, positioning her vehicle in concealment that provided observation of the clinic, while remaining invisible to potential enemy positions. Through her advanced optics, she could see the systematic destruction that the desert ghosts had inflicted on the medical facility and the surrounding civilian infrastructure. The Beta Clinic had been reduced to smoking rubble by precision explosions that had destroyed medical equipment and supplies, while leaving the basic structure partially intact. Emily could see bodies in the courtyard area, but she couldn't determine from her current position whether they were civilian casualties or medical personnel. More importantly, she could see movement in the watchtower ruins that confirmed Sandman's presence in tactical position. The enemy sniper was conducting systematic observation of the valley, using advanced optics to track movement patterns and identify potential targets. Emily's training allowed her to recognize the patience and systematic approach that marked Sandman as a professional operator with extensive field experience. Emily activated her secure communications equipment and established contact with Iron Shield while maintaining observation of the tactical situation. Base, this is Medical 7. I have visual confirmation of enemy sniper position in Watchtower Ruins. GRID reference 847,293. Target appears to be conducting systematic surveillance with advanced optical equipment. Agent Park's voice came through Emily's encrypted headset with the clarity that indicated secure communication protocols were functioning properly. Medical 7, we copy your position report. What is your assessment of medical evacuation possibilities? Emily adjusted her observation position to get a better view of the clinic area, while remaining concealed from potential enemy observation. Through her rifle scope, she could see details that painted a grim picture of the Desert Ghost's operational methods. Base, the clinic has been systematically destroyed using precision explosives that maximize damage to medical equipment while preserving structural elements that could provide concealment for enemy forces. I count 4 bodies in the courtyard area, but I cannot confirm identity or status from current position. Emily continued her methodical reconnaissance, cataloging enemy positions, defensive capabilities, and potential approach routes that might allow medical evacuation or recovery of survivors. The tactical picture that emerged was of a carefully planned operation designed to eliminate medical infrastructure while creating a tactical situation that would draw coalition forces into prepared ambushes. Base, I'm observing secondary enemy position in the abandoned grain storage building adjacent to the clinic. Movement patterns suggest at least one individual with small arms, probably the close-range elimination specialist designated Red Scope. Agent Park's response indicated that Emily's reconnaissance was providing valuable tactical intelligence that wasn't available through other surveillance methods. Medical 7, your position reports are consistent with our satellite intelligence. Can you assess possibilities for approaching the clinic without detection? Emily spent 20 minutes conducting detailed analysis of the terrain, sight lines, and potential concealment routes that might allow movement toward the clinic area. Her Marine Scout training provided systematic methods for evaluating tactical approaches, but the professional skill of the enemy forces meant that any movement would involve significant risk. Base, direct approach to the clinic is not feasible without neutralizing at least one enemy position. Sandman's watchtower position provides observation of all practical approach routes. Red Scope's position in the grain storage building covers close approaches to the clinic itself. Emily paused her reconnaissance report to conduct more detailed observation of the clinic courtyard, looking for signs of survivors or medical personnel who might require immediate assistance. Through her scope, she could see that one of the Bodies was wearing medical scrubs, but she couldn't determine whether the person was alive or dead. Base, I have visual confirmation of at least one medical casualty in the clinic courtyard. Individual appears to be wearing medical clothing, but status is unknown. Assessment of survivor rescue requires closer reconnaissance. Agent Park's response carried a note of concern that reflected the complexity of the tactical situation Emily was describing. Medical 7. Closer reconnaissance would expose you to direct fire from confirmed enemy positions. Do you assess that approach as tactically feasible? Emily understood that Agent Park was asking whether she believed she could conduct rescue operations using her specialized training without unacceptable risk to herself or the mission. The question required her to evaluate not just the tactical challenges but her own capabilities against professional enemy operators. Base, tactical assessment indicates that neutralization of primary enemy position would be required before conducting survivor rescue. Sandman's watchtower position is vulnerable to precision fire from elevated positions that provide concealment and escape routes. Emily realized that she was essentially proposing to engage in counter-sniper operations against one of the Desert Ghost's most skilled operatives. The tactical challenge was significant, but her training and equipment provided realistic possibilities for success if she could approach Sandman's position without detection. Agent Park was quiet for several moments before responding, clearly consulting with higher authority about the operational parameters for Emily's mission. Medical 7. You are authorized to conduct tactical operations necessary for survivor rescue and medical evacuation. Rules of engagement authorize neutralization of enemy forces that pose direct threats to medical personnel. Emily understood that she had just received authorization to conduct lethal operations under medical mission authority. The careful, legal language provided her with broad discretionary power to engage enemy forces while maintaining the fiction that her primary mission remained medical rather than combat-oriented. Base, understood. Conducting tactical movement to neutralize primary threat and assess survivor rescue possibilities. Emily began immediate preparation for what would be her first combat operation since transferring to medical service. The psychological transition from medical provider to tactical operator required mental adjustments that she had hoped never to make again. But the situation at Beta Village left her no choice. Her approach to Sandman's watchtower position would require movement across approximately 800 meters of rocky terrain that provided adequate concealment, but also presented numerous tactical challenges. Emily would need to approach close enough to ensure accurate fire while remaining undetected by an opponent whose training and experience made him extremely dangerous. Emily secured her vehicle in concealment that would allow rapid evacuation. If her tactical operation succeeded in creating survivor rescue opportunities, her medical supplies remained readily available, but her immediate focus shifted to the tactical requirements of engaging a professional sniper in prepared defensive positions. The movement towards Sandman's position took 43 minutes of careful stalking through terrain that provided concealment while avoiding areas where noise or movement might alert the enemy to her presence. Emily's Marine Scout training served her well, allowing her to move through rocky ground without creating sounds that would carry to sensitive enemy ears. As Emily approached within 300 meters of the watchtower ruins, she could observe Sandman's operational methods in detail. The enemy sniper was conducting systematic surveillance sweeps of the valley below, using high-quality optics to track potential movement while maintaining communication with other Desert Ghost positions through encrypted radio equipment. Emily established a concealed shooting position in the rocks overlooking the watchtower, choosing a location that provided clear sightlines to Sandman's position while offering multiple escape routes if the tactical situation deteriorated. Her grandfather's M40A6 rifle felt familiar and comfortable as she prepared for precision shooting at a range that would test her marksmanship skills against a dangerous opponent. Through her rifle scope, Emily could see Sandman clearly enough to evaluate his equipment, defensive positioning, and tactical awareness. The enemy sniper was using professional-grade equipment that matched or exceeded Emily's own capabilities, confirming intelligence reports about the Desert Ghost's access to advanced military hardware. Emily took careful aim, adjusting for wind conditions, range, and the elevated shooting angle that would affect bullet trajectory. Her breathing slowed into the controlled rhythm that her father had taught her during childhood training sessions, focusing her attention on the precision required for a successful shot at this range. The shot broke cleanly, sending a .308 caliber bullet across the 300 meters separating Emily from her target with the accuracy that had made her one of the top graduates in her Marine sniper class. Through her scope, Emily watched Sandman collapse against the stone wall of the watchtower, his rifle clattering down the rocky slope as his body went limp. Emily maintained observation of the watchtower for 5 minutes, confirming that Sandman was neutralized and watching for signs of response from other enemy positions. The elimination of the primary sniper threat would complicate Red Scope's tactical situation, but it wouldn't eliminate the danger to medical evacuation operations. Base, this is Medical 7. Primary threat has been neutralized. Continuing. Reconnaissance for survivor assessment and medical evacuation possibilities. Agent Park's response carried a note of professional respect that reflected her understanding of the tactical complexity of Emily's operation. Medical 7, excellent work. What is your assessment of remaining tactical threats? Emily began. Movement toward the clinic area, using concealment and tactical movement techniques to avoid potential observation from Red Scope's position in the grain storage building. The elimination of Sandman had removed the long-range precision threat, but close-range dangers remain significant. Base, secondary threat remains active in close proximity to potential survivors. Conducting approach for medical assessment and tactical evaluation of remaining enemy position. Emily reached a concealed position within 100 meters of the clinic courtyard, close enough to conduct detailed observation of the casualties and assess possibilities for medical intervention. What she saw through her rifle scope made her blood run cold with professional anger and personal determination. Dr. Halil Osman was alive, but barely. The civilian physician had been shot through both legs and left in the courtyard, where his suffering would be visible to any rescue attempts. His wounds had been deliberately inflicted to cause maximum pain while ensuring survival, creating a tactical situation where medical personnel would be compelled to attempt rescue despite obvious dangers. The 2 nurses who had worked with Dr. Osman were dead, killed by precision shots that had ended their lives instantly. But their bodies had been positioned in the courtyard in ways that would force any rescue attempt to expose itself to fire from Red Scope's position in the grain storage building. Emily realized she was observing the tactical signature of Silent Storm, the Desert Ghost's operative who specialized in psychological warfare through the deliberate infliction of survivable but resource-intensive injuries. Dr. Osman had been shot and positioned as bait for a secondary ambush that would eliminate medical personnel who attempted rescue operations. Base, I have visual confirmation of survivor requiring immediate medical assistance. Dr. Osman is alive but critically wounded. Tactical situation indicates deliberate bait scenario designed to draw medical personnel into secondary ambush position. Agent Park's response reflected her understanding of the psychological warfare aspects of the Desert Ghost's operation. Medical 7, do you assess rescue as tactically feasible? Emily studied the tactical situation carefully, evaluating approach routes, enemy positions, and medical requirements for treating Dr. Osman's injuries. The challenge was significant, but her training provided realistic options for neutralizing Red Scope while conducting medical evacuation under hostile conditions. Base, rescue is feasible if secondary threat is neutralized first. Red Scope's position provides tactical advantages, but it also creates predictable patterns that can be exploited. Emily began planning her approach to Red Scope's position. In the grain storage building, knowing that this engagement would be more challenging than her long-range elimination of Sandman. Close-range tactical operations against a professional opponent required different skills and involved greater personal risk. The grain storage building was a 3-story structure that provided Red Scope with excellent observation of the clinic courtyard while offering multiple defensive positions and escape routes. Emily would need to approach close enough to eliminate the threat while avoiding detection by an opponent who was specifically watching for rescue attempts. Emily's movement toward the grain storage building required crossing open ground that would expose her to potential observation, but she used tactical timing and concealment to minimize her vulnerability. Her approach took advantage of shadows and terrain features that provided concealment while allowing rapid movement toward Red Scope's position. The final assault on Red Scope's position required Emily to utilize close-quarters combat skills that she had learned during Marine infantry training but had never expected to use in support of medical operations. The engagement was brief but intense, ending with Red Scope's elimination and Emily's establishment of tactical control over the clinic area. Base, this is Medical 7. Secondary threat has been neutralized. Clinic area is secure for medical evacuation operations. I am conducting immediate medical assessment of Dr. Osman. Emily approached Dr. Osman with her medical training taking priority over her tactical awareness, shifting from combat operator back to medical provider as she began treating his injuries. The physician was conscious but in severe pain from deliberately inflicted wounds that would require immediate surgical intervention to prevent permanent disability. Dr. Osman, I'm Emily Rodriguez, Navy Hospital Corpsman. You're safe now. I'm going to treat your injuries and evacuate you Iron Shield for surgical care. Dr. Osman managed to speak despite his pain and shock. The nurses Amira and Fatima, are they? Emily had confirmed that both nurses were dead, but she focused on providing immediate medical care while preparing Dr. Osman for evacuation. Sir, I need to focus on treating your injuries right now. We'll discuss everything else after we get you to proper medical facilities. Emily's medical assessment revealed that Dr. Osman had been shot through both legs with precision that had shattered bones while avoiding major blood vessels. The wounds were consistent with Silent Storm's tactical signature, designed to inflict maximum suffering while ensuring survival for psychological warfare purposes. Base, this is Medical 7. I have one survivor requiring immediate surgical evacuation. Injuries are severe but survivable with proper medical intervention. Requesting medical evacuation helicopter for transport to Iron Shield. Agent Park's response indicated that medical evacuation assets were already being prepared based on Emily's tactical success. Medical 7, medical evacuation helicopter is en route to your position. 8 to 15 minutes. Outstanding work on neutralizing enemy threats. Emily spent the time before medical evacuation arrival providing advanced trauma care to Dr. Osman while conducting security sweeps to ensure that no additional enemy forces were approaching the clinic area. Her dual role as medical provider and tactical operator felt strange but necessary given the circumstances. The medical evacuation helicopter arrived precisely on schedule, allowing Emily to transfer Dr. Osman to professional flight medics while providing detailed briefings about his injuries and the tactical situation at Beta Village. The successful rescue operation had eliminated immediate threats while demonstrating that the Desert Ghost's psychological warfare tactics could be defeated through proper tactical response. During the flight back to Iron Shield, Emily reflected on her first combat operation since transferring to medical service. The successful rescue of Dr. Osman had required her to integrate medical and tactical skills in ways that she had never anticipated. But the operation had also demonstrated that her unique background could provide capabilities that conventional military or medical personnel could not match. Agent Park met Emily at the landing zone with Dr. Bennett and Captain Wilson, all three clearly impressed by the successful completion of a complex tactical operation that had neutralized significant enemy threats while achieving medical mission objectives. Corporal Rodriguez, Captain Wilson said as Emily completed her equipment maintenance, "Your operation today eliminated 2 high-value enemy targets while rescuing medical personnel under extremely difficult conditions. That represents exceptional performance by any standard." Emily understood that her successful operation had fundamentally changed her role at Iron Shield, but she was also aware that the Desert Ghosts represented a larger threat that would require sustained tactical response. "Sir, today's operation addressed immediate threats, but the Desert Ghost network remains active. Intelligence suggests they're planning additional operations against medical infrastructure." Agent Park nodded grimly. "Corporal Rodriguez, your assessment is correct. Communication intercepts indicate that Silent Storm is planning a direct assault on Iron Shield, possibly as retaliation for the elimination of Sandman and Red Scope." Emily felt the familiar cold focus settling over her mind as she processed the implications of continued Desert Ghosts operations. Her successful rescue mission at Beta Village had demonstrated her tactical capabilities, but it had also marked her as a high-value target for enemy retaliation. "Agent Park, what intelligence do we have about Silent Storm's operational plans and timeline?" Agent Park activated her secure tablet, displaying intercepted communications and tactical analysis that painted a disturbing picture of escalating enemy operations. "Intelligence indicates Silent Storm is assembling additional operatives for a coordinated assault on Iron Shield. Estimated timeline for execution is within 48 to 72 hours. Emily understood that her transition from medical service to tactical operations was accelerating beyond anything she had anticipated. The Desert Ghosts were escalating their campaign against medical infrastructure, forcing her to accept a role that combined medical and combat responsibilities in ways that would fundamentally change her military identity. Agent Park coordinated. Assault on Iron Shield would require significant operational planning and resources. Do we have intelligence about the specific threats and tactical approaches Silent Storm is planning? Agent Park's expression suggested that the intelligence picture was incomplete but concerning. Partial intelligence indicates Silent Storm has acquired additional personnel and equipment, possibly including explosives and heavy weapons. The assault appears designed to eliminate Iron Shield's medical capabilities while inflicting maximum casualties among medical personnel. Emily realized that her successful operation at Beta Village had triggered an escalation in the Desert Ghosts campaign that would require comprehensive tactical response beyond her individual capabilities. The defense of Iron Shield would require coordinated operations involving multiple specialists with advanced tactical training. Agent Park, defending Iron Shield against coordinated assault would require tactical resources beyond what's currently available at this base. Do we have access to additional operational support? Agent Park smiled for the first time since Emily had known her. Corporal Rodriguez, your family has an interesting reputation in certain professional circles. Your brother's Special Forces unit has been monitoring the situation in northern Kaldestan with considerable interest. Emily understood that Agent Park was suggesting that her family's military connections could provide tactical support that went beyond official military channels. The Rodriguez family network included specialists who could address threats that conventional forces might not be equipped to handle. That evening, Emily sat in her quarters conducting secure communications with her brother, Alex, while planning tactical operations that would integrate her medical duties with the defense of Iron Shield against the Desert Ghosts' planned assault. The transition from medical service to tactical leadership was complete, But it was also just the beginning of a larger campaign that would test every aspect of her training and capabilities. Part 4. Escalating External Threat continued. The secure satellite communication with Alex took place at 2,147 hours, conducted through encryption protocols that would ensure their conversation remained private despite the sophisticated intelligence capabilities that the Desert Ghosts had demonstrated. Emily sat in Captain Wilson's office, which had been cleared of all personnel except herself and Agent Park, who served as the official liaison for what was technically an informal consultation between family members. Alex's voice came through the encrypted channel with the clarity that indicated military-grade communication equipment on both ends of the conversation. Agent Park has provided our unit with a tactical briefing about your situation. The Desert Ghosts represent a significant threat that conventional forces aren't equipped to handle effectively. Emily felt a mixture of relief and apprehension as she realized that her brother's Special Forces unit had been monitoring the situation in northern Kaldestan and preparing potential response options. The Rodriguez family's military connections were extensive, but involving them in her tactical situation would represent a significant escalation in both capabilities and risks. Alex, what level of support are we talking about? The Desert Ghosts have demonstrated professional military capabilities and sophisticated intelligence sources. Any response would need to match their operational sophistication. Alex's response indicated that he had conducted detailed analysis of the Desert Ghosts' tactical methods and operational capabilities. We're talking about a 4-person team with specialized skills in counterterrorism, sniper operations, and unconventional warfare. My unit has been tracking the Desert Ghosts through multiple countries, and we have tactical intelligence that isn't available through conventional military channels. Emily understood that her brother was offering operational support from some of the most highly trained military specialists in the world, but she also knew that involving Special Forces personnel in her situation would fundamentally change the nature of the mission and potentially create political complications. Alex, what would be the operational parameters for this kind of support? I need to understand how your team's involvement would affect my medical mission and the humanitarian operations we're supposed to protect. Alex was quiet for a moment before responding, clearly considering the complex legal and operational issues that would be involved in deploying Special Forces personnel in support of medical mission protection. The operation would be structured as counterterrorism support for humanitarian operations. Your medical mission would remain the primary objective, but our team would provide tactical capabilities that ensure medical operations can continue without interference from professional terrorist networks. Agent Park had been monitoring the conversation while taking notes on her secure tablet. She activated her communication equipment and joined the conversation with information that had clearly been coordinated in advance. Alex, this is Agent Park. I've been authorized to inform you that Coalition Command has classified the Desert Ghosts as a terrorist organization that poses direct threats to humanitarian operations throughout the region. Military action against Desert Ghosts operatives would fall under anti-terrorism protocols that provide broad operational authority. Emily realized that Agent Park and her brother had already conducted preliminary coordination about potential Special Forces involvement in defending Iron Shield. The conversation she was having was essentially a formal confirmation of operational plans that had been developed through unofficial military channels. Agent Park, what specific tactical support would Alex's team provide? I need to understand how Special Forces operations would integrate with medical mission requirements. Agent Park consulted her tablet before responding with information that suggested detailed operational planning had already been conducted. Alex's team would provide counter-sniper capabilities, explosive ordnance disposal, tactical assault capabilities, and advanced reconnaissance. Your role would remain medical support, but you would also serve as tactical coordinator for operations involving medical facility protection. Emily understood that she was being offered an opportunity to lead tactical operations involving some of the most highly trained military specialists available, but she was also aware that accepting such responsibility would represent a fundamental change in her military career and personal identity. Alex, what would be the timeline for deploying your team to northern Kaldestan? Alex's response indicated that contingency planning had been more advanced than Emily had realized. My team can be in your area of operations within 18 hours if we receive official authorization. We've been pre-positioned for rapid deployment based on intelligence assessments of the Desert Ghost threat level. Emily felt the weight of command responsibility settling over her as she realized that her tactical decisions would determine not just her own future, but the operational deployment of elite military units and the safety of medical operations throughout northern Kaldestan. Alex, I need to understand the full scope of what we're committing to. The Desert Ghosts have demonstrated sophisticated intelligence capabilities and professional military training. Any operation against them would involve significant risks and potentially extended tactical engagement. Alex's voice carried the confidence that came from years of special forces operations in some of the world's most dangerous environments. My team has conducted operations against similar opponents in multiple theaters. The Desert Ghosts are professional, but they're not invincible. With proper tactical coordination and adequate intelligence support, we can eliminate their operational capabilities while protecting medical missions. Agent Park provided additional information that clarified the broader strategic context for potential special forces operations. Emily, intelligence indicates that the Desert Ghosts are planning to expand their operations beyond northern Kaldestan. Eliminating their network here could prevent attacks on medical facilities throughout the region. Emily understood that her tactical decisions would have implications far beyond Iron Shield and the immediate threat to her medical team. The Desert Ghosts represented a systematic threat to humanitarian operations that required comprehensive response rather than defensive measures. Agent Park, if we eliminate the Desert Ghosts network in northern Kaldestan, what prevents other terrorist organizations from adopting similar tactics against medical infrastructure? Agent Park's expression suggested she had considered the broader implications of anti-terrorism operations against networks that targeted medical facilities. Emily, successful operations against the Desert Ghosts would demonstrate that terrorist attacks on medical infrastructure have serious consequences. That deterrent effect could protect medical missions throughout the region. Emily realized that her decision about accepting special forces support would determine whether medical operations in conflict zones would continue to be vulnerable to terrorist attacks or whether sophisticated tactical response would provide effective protection for humanitarian missions. Alex, if I accept tactical command for operations involving your team, what would be my operational authority and decision-making responsibility? Alex's response reflected his understanding of Emily's concerns about command responsibility and operational accountability. You would serve as mission commander for all operations involving protection of medical facilities and personnel. My team would provide tactical capabilities under your operational direction, but final decisions about engagement rules and mission parameters would be yours. Emily understood that her brother was offering her command authority over elite military operators while ensuring that medical mission protection remained the primary objective. The arrangement would provide maximum tactical flexibility while maintaining medical mission priorities. Alex, I accept tactical command for operations involving protection of medical missions in northern Kaldestan. What are the immediate requirements for deployment and operational coordination? Alex's response indicated that deployment preparations had been waiting only for Emily's authorization. My team will deploy to your location within 12 hours. will establish tactical coordination protocols that integrate with your medical mission requirements while providing comprehensive defense against terrorist threats. Agent Park began immediate coordination for Special Forces deployment, activating communication protocols and operational authorities that had clearly been prepared in advance. Emily, I'll coordinate with Coalition Command to establish official authorization for anti-terrorism operations in support of medical mission protection. Emily spent the remainder of the evening preparing for what would be her transition from individual tactical operations to command responsibility for coordinated military action against a sophisticated terrorist network. The psychological adjustment was significant, but her training and experience provided confidence that she could manage the complex operational requirements. Her grandfather's M406 rifle would remain an important tactical tool, but her primary responsibilities would involve coordination and decision-making rather than individual marksmanship. The transition from operator to commander represented another evolution in her military identity, building on her medical training and tactical skills while adding leadership responsibilities. The next morning brought confirmation that Alex's Special Forces team had deployed during the night and was approaching Iron Shield through infiltration routes that avoided potential Desert Ghost surveillance. Emily received secure communication updates about their approach while conducting routine medical duties that would maintain the appearance of normal operations. "Base, this is Ghost Actual." Alex's voice came through Emily's secure headset using military call signs that indicated formal operational status. "My team is in position for tactical coordination. Request secure meeting for operational briefing and mission planning." Emily coordinated with Captain Wilson and Agent Park to establish a secure briefing area where Alex's team could conduct detailed mission planning without compromising operational security. The meeting would mark the beginning of coordinated operations that would either eliminate the Desert Ghost threat or escalate the conflict beyond anything northern Kaldestan had experienced. "Ghost Actual, this is Medical 7. Secure briefing is authorized for 1200 hours. Primary objectives remain medical mission protection and elimination of terrorist threats to humanitarian operations." Emily understood that her next few hours would involve transitioning from medical provider to tactical commander, coordinating with elite military operators while maintaining her primary responsibility for protecting medical missions and civilian populations. The challenge was complex, but her unique combination of skills and experience positioned her to manage operations that conventional military leaders might not be able to coordinate effectively. The briefing with Alex's team would establish operational parameters for what might become the most significant anti-terrorism operation in northern Kaldestan's recent history, with Emily serving as mission commander for operations that would determine whether medical missions could continue operating safely in conflict zones throughout the region. The secure briefing room at Forward Operating Base Iron Shield had been configured with electronic countermeasures and communication equipment that would allow detailed tactical planning while ensuring that operational security remained intact. Emily arrived at 11:57 hours to find Alex's Special Forces team already conducting preliminary reconnaissance and threat assessment using intelligence sources that went far beyond what was available through conventional military channels. Alex introduced his team members using operational call signs that reflected their specialized capabilities while maintaining personal security protocols. Meet Ghost 2, our sniper and reconnaissance specialist with 12 years of counter-terrorism operations. Ghost 3, explosives and breaching specialist with extensive experience in urban warfare. Ghost 4, communications and electronic warfare specialist with advanced training in signal intelligence. Emily studied the three operators who would be working under her tactical command, noting the quiet confidence and professional competence that marked elite military specialists. Each team member carried equipment that exceeded standard military Issue reflecting the advanced capabilities that Special Forces units brought to complex operational environments. Gentlemen, I'm Emily Rodriguez, Mission Commander for Medical Facility Protection Operations. Our primary objective is eliminating terrorist threats to humanitarian missions while ensuring that medical operations can continue without interference. Ghost 2, the Sniper Specialist, activated a tablet displaying detailed intelligence about Desert Ghost's operational capabilities and recent activities. Ma'am, we've been tracking the Desert Ghost through multiple countries for the past 8 months. They represent one of the most sophisticated terrorist networks currently operating against humanitarian targets. Emily reviewed the intelligence summaries, noting details about Desert Ghost's operations that weren't available through conventional military intelligence channels. Alex's team had access to information sources that provided comprehensive understanding of enemy capabilities, operational methods, and strategic objectives. Ghost 2, what specific intelligence do you have about Silent Storm's planned assault on Iron Shield? Ghost 2 brought up tactical maps and communication intercepts that painted a detailed picture of enemy operational planning. Ma'am, Silent Storm has assembled a team of 6 operatives with advanced military training and sophisticated equipment. They're planning a coordinated assault designed to eliminate medical capabilities while inflicting maximum casualties among medical personnel. Emily studied the tactical intelligence, noting that Silent Storm's operational plan demonstrated detailed understanding of Iron Shield's defensive capabilities and medical mission procedures. The enemy had clearly conducted extensive reconnaissance and intelligence gathering that allowed them to develop sophisticated attack plans. What timeline are we working with for this coordinated assault? Ghost 3, the Explosive Specialist, provided additional intelligence that clarified the immediate tactical situation. Ma'am, communication intercepts indicate Silent Storm's team will be in position for assault operations within 24 hours. They're planning to attack during medical evacuation operations to maximize casualties and psychological impact. Emily realized that the Desert Ghosts were planning to exploit medical mission vulnerabilities by timing their assault to coincide with routine medical operations that would expose personnel and create maximum chaos. The psychological warfare aspects of their planning demonstrated sophisticated understanding of how to damage morale and operational effectiveness. Ghost 3, what specific threats are we facing in terms of explosive capabilities and assault tactics? Ghost 3 activated detailed tactical assessments that revealed the full scope of the enemy's operational capabilities. Ma'am, intelligence indicates Silent Storm's team has acquired military-grade explosives, including shaped charges designed to breach defensive positions and fragmentary devices designed to inflict mass casualties in confined spaces. Emily understood that defending Iron Shield against the planned assault would require tactical capabilities that went far beyond standard base security measures. The enemy's access to advanced explosives and professional military training meant that conventional defensive approaches would be inadequate. Ghost 4, what intelligence do we have about Silent Storm's communication capabilities and coordination methods? Ghost 4, the Communication Specialist, provided information that revealed another layer of the enemy's operational sophistication. Ma'am, the Desert Ghosts are using encrypted communication systems that indicate access to advanced electronic equipment. They're also demonstrating signal intelligence capabilities that suggest they may be monitoring our operational communications. Emily felt a chill as she realized that the Desert Ghosts might have real-time intelligence about coalition tactical planning and operational procedures. If enemy forces could monitor military communications, they would have advance warning about defensive preparations and tactical responses. Ghost 4, can you implement countermeasures that would prevent enemy monitoring of our tactical communications? Ghost 4 consulted his specialized equipment before responding with confidence that reflected advanced training in electronic warfare. Ma'am, I can establish secure communication protocols that would be extremely difficult for enemy forces to penetrate. We can also implement electronic countermeasures that would disrupt enemy communication systems during assault operations. Agent Park had been monitoring the tactical briefing while coordinating with higher military authorities about operational authorization and resource allocation. She activated her communication equipment to provide additional intelligence that had just become available through classified sources. Emily, I've received updated intelligence about Silent Storm's operational background that changes our assessment of the threat level we're facing. Agent Park displayed classified documents that revealed information about Silent Storm's identity and training that explained the sophistication of Desert Ghost's operations. Silent Storm is Dr. Rashid Al-Mansouri, a former military surgeon who served with Iraqi Special Forces before turning to mercenary operations. He has advanced medical training combined with military tactical expertise, which explains the sophisticated nature of Desert Ghost's psychological warfare tactics. Emily felt her blood run cold as she processed the implications of facing an opponent who combined medical knowledge with military training and mercenary experience. Dr. Al-Mansouri would understand medical operations from the inside while possessing tactical capabilities that matched or exceeded conventional military standards. Agent Park, Dr. Al-Mansouri's medical background explains how the Desert Ghosts have been able to exploit medical mission vulnerabilities so effectively. He knows exactly how medical operations function and where they're most vulnerable to tactical attack. Alex had been studying the intelligence reports while coordinating with his team about tactical response options. Facing an opponent with advanced medical and military training requires operational approaches that account for his understanding of both medical and tactical procedures. Emily realized that defending Iron Shield against Dr. Al-Mansouri's assault would require tactical innovation that went beyond conventional military approaches. Her unique combination of medical and tactical training positioned her to understand enemy capabilities while developing response strategies that other commanders might not be able to coordinate effectively. Alex, what tactical options do we have for defending against an assault led by someone who understands both medical operations and military tactics? Alex consulted with his team members before responding with operational recommendations that reflected extensive Special Forces experience in counter-terrorism operations. Our best approach is to turn Dr. Al-Mansouri's medical knowledge against him by creating tactical situations that exploit his psychological profile while negating his operational advantages. Emily understood that Alex was suggesting psychological warfare tactics that would use Dr. Al-Mansouri's medical background to create operational opportunities for defensive operations. The approach would require sophisticated tactical coordination, but could provide decisive advantages against an opponent who thought he understood medical mission vulnerabilities. Alex, explain the specific tactical approaches you're recommending for exploiting Dr. Al-Mansouri's psychological profile. Alex activated tactical maps that showed Iron Shield's defensive positions and surrounding terrain while outlining operational concepts that demonstrated advanced Special Forces planning capabilities. We create the appearance of medical evacuation operations that would draw Dr. Al-Mansouri's team into prepared defensive positions. His medical background will make him overconfident about predicting medical operational patterns. Emily studied the tactical plans, noting how Alex's approach would use Dr. Al-Mansouri's medical knowledge as a vulnerability rather than an advantage. The enemy's understanding of medical procedures would make him predictable in ways that could be exploited through sophisticated deception operations. This approach requires precise timing and coordination between defensive positions and apparent medical operations. What resources do we need to implement this tactical plan? Ghost 2 provided detailed resource requirements that demonstrated the complexity of the proposed offensive operation. Ma'am, we need coordination with Iron Shield medical personnel to create convincing medical evacuation scenarios. We also need advanced defensive positions that can provide mutual support during enemy assault operations. Emily realized that implementing Alex's tactical plan would require her to coordinate between her medical team and Special Forces operators, while maintaining operational security that prevented Dr. Al-Mansouri from detecting the deception. The coordination challenges were significant, but the operational advantages could be decisive. Alex, I approve the tactical plan for exploiting Dr. Al-Mansouri's medical background through deception operations. What's our timeline for implementation, and what coordination do you need from Iron Shield personnel? Alex began immediate operational planning that would establish defensive positions and coordination protocols within the limited time available before Dr. Al-Mansouri's assault. We need 8 hours for position establishment and tactical coordination. Your medical team needs to maintain normal operational routines while being prepared to participate in deception operations on short notice. Emily understood that the next 8 hours would involve intensive preparation for what might be the most complex tactical operation of her military career. She would need to coordinate between medical duties and tactical command while ensuring that her team remained prepared for both defensive operations and legitimate medical emergencies. Agent Park provided final coordination with Coalition Command that established official authorization for the defensive operations, while maintaining the legal framework that protected medical mission priorities. Emily, you have full operational authority for defensive operations against terrorist threats. Your medical mission remains the primary objective, but you're authorized to use all necessary tactical measures to protect humanitarian operations. As the tactical briefing concluded and Alex's team began detailed preparation for defensive operations, Emily found herself reflecting on the rapid evolution of her military role from medical provider to tactical commander. The challenges were complex, but her unique background positioned her to manage operations that conventional military leaders might not be able to coordinate effectively. The defensive Iron Shield against Dr. Al-Mansouri's assault would test every aspect of her training and experience, while determining whether medical missions could continue operating safely in environments where sophisticated terrorist networks targeted humanitarian infrastructure. The outcome would have implications far beyond northern Kaldestan, potentially influencing how medical operations were protected throughout conflict zones worldwide. Emily spent the remainder of the day coordinating between medical duties and tactical preparation, ensuring that her team remained ready for both defensive operations and medical emergencies, while maintaining the operational security required for successful deception operations against a highly sophisticated enemy commander. T on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.